Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built and round 2 on trying to get Harry started. So those of you watching last week's episode will have seen that I really have struggled to get Harry started. Basically, the biggest issue I really came across was I'm just not getting a spark while cranking. Now, I am aware that there are a bunch of circuits that turn off when you actually go from ignition to cranking the engine, so that all the power goes towards the starter. I did jump and give direct power to the coil packs, so trying to mitigate that, but that didn't seem to help. I've got a few things to go through today and see if I can sort of test and try out some bits and pieces and see what works, see if I can get it to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get under and I'm going to see if I can set up some sort of remote starting system. So I sort of negate the key. I just can turn the key onto ignition, and then I want to be able to jump start the car from standing back here so that I can crank it and be watching the engine, because I've only got me. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so this is what I set up last week, but I just thought I'd run you through it. Basically, I've taken one of the coil packs out and just run one of the short spark plug leads that was in the car previously. This is going into the spark plug so that I can actually have a bit of a lead that I can put my test light onto. So basically, I just can clamp on my test light, plug in the coil pack, and then I can see whether everything is working or not. Okay, so you can see there in test mode, the test light is working properly and the coil is actually firing, and I can hear the actual coil as well. So we know that part is working. So now I need to try cranking it again and see if we can actually get a spark while cranking. Okay, so I've just gone through and cleaned up both sets of ground connections. So there's the one in the engine bay, which grounds out all the coils, and there's also the ground for the ECU, which is in the car. Neither of them looked that good, so I've just cleaned them all up and made sure that there's a much better connection. I'm hoping that that's a much better connection now. So we're going to try that again and see if that has made a difference. At least now, cleaning up the grounds, it's worth a shot. So let's try that. Well, I just set the test light on the ground, and just so I could see it while I was cranking. Still no joy, so that didn't work. Back to the drawing board. I've got an LED test light. So not it doesn't have a regular bulb, actually has an LED bulb. This is much more sensitive, so I've used this, and I have double checked the wires going to the coil, and it is actually getting a signal to spark when I turn the key. So the signal for the spark is going and is working. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually connected up. Benny lent me this really cool spark tester. So I've got that directly into the coil, and now we'll be able to see the spark jumping between these terminals. Basically, you just clip it to a ground on the car and plug the other into a lead, and you can actually see, you can plug it into, this is an 8-cylinder one, you can plug it into all 8 cylinders and see which spark is not happening or whatever. You can adjust the gaps. It's a good bit of testing gear, so we're going to test it again now and see how it goes. Yep, that works, that's great. So you can see there, we just ran a test and it's sparking on number 1 on the test setting. So let's try cranking it and see if that works. Yes, it's getting sparked. Yeah, now it's sparking. I don't know, maybe my earths were the issue. I don't know what I did, maybe my grounds actually were the issue, because now we have spark when we're cranking. It's working. So what we're going to do now is, before we actually run the fuel again, because the fuel is turned off at the moment, so the car shouldn't start, we're just going to go through with the timing light and just check that we're firing close to top dead center, and yeah, and then we'll go through and actually try and See if it'll start. No, I'm not getting any. So I just did a bit more testing, and it seems like we're actually getting spark, but the test light is not firing when we're cranking ignition. Even connected to this, when I can see there's a spark, it's not firing. So I think the issue is actually there's some issue with the test light, not actually with anything else. So I think we're gonna send it. Hey, 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 hey! Start! It started! It smokes like a pig, but it starts. How's it going? Nothing's leaking? No. Oh, what's going on? Something's frying. Yeah, that's burning, and that's not good burning. Oh, was it the starter? I think I still had it cranked on the start. Where is that smoke coming from? The smoke is coming from... Oh, I hope I didn't kill the starter motor. Oh. Yeah, the starter motor is very, very hot. We had liftoff. It started for a few seconds. It wasn't good, but then it stopped and it died, and then I started getting some nasty smells and noises, and when it was dead, and I realized I still had the power on to the starter motor. The starter motor is very hot. There's lots of smoke coming out. Let's hope I haven't killed my starter motor, but it runs. I don't want to have to buy a new starter motor. I hope it's okay. But even if it's not, the fact is that the thing started and it ran. Yeah. So Adam in New Zealand is just going through TeamViewer on the logs at the moment, and it appears the reason why the engine shut down is because it thought it lost control of the throttle. Because I was manually operating the throttle, the computer's going, well, what's going on? It's going haywire, and it just shut things down. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. So now we're just going to sort that out and see if I have actually got a working starter motor or not, or whether I've killed it. So we've got solenoid, but we've got no starter. All right, so it looks like we've cooked the starter. I can hear the solenoid ticking, so the solenoid is good, but the starter motor itself is not. So first protocol, get the car up in the air, pull the starter motor off, see if I can pull it apart and see if I can work out what's going inside, because we need to start this thing. It's there, it's gonna start, it runs. Oh. All right, I'm quite annoyed with myself that I've sort of wrecked this starter motor. I'm not sure if in the heat of the moment, if I actually explained what happened, but because I was using my my jump start pack as my starter, and it's got a switch on it to turn it on, I was cranking the car with this, and then it started, and I was worrying about the throttle and forgot that I'd left the switch on, so the starter was going the whole time. And even after the car stopped, it was still going, and then there was smoke and stuff, and I thought I would first start up, it's going to smoke. It kept smoking and getting worse, and yeah, that's what it was. So let's pull this apart now and see. Hopefully, maybe it's just a brush that's stuck in there. I don't think so. I think it's fried it. All right, I finally got the starter apart. It's pretty ugly in there. These last two screws were a real pain, but I did actually manage to use my impact driver. Now this is the old school version of an impact driver. I tried using like a powered one, but I didn't have any heads that were big enough. And these things are really cool because particularly with flat blade and with screwdriver bits, what you do is you stick it on, and as you hit the end with a hammer, this end twists and undoes the bolt just slightly, and it's enough to keep tapping it, and you actually get you can get it undone, and it worked quite well. So I'll put a link in the description for this. Give it a look. But now I have it apart, I can just sort of take you through, and I can see what has actually died. There's a lot of fluid gunk in here, and what I think it is actually like there's some insulation that's died. So if you have a look in here, all these rings, I can actually see it's all caked up and flaked, and there whatever insulation stuff that's like on this side, you can see there's sort of this insulation stuff that's all sort of melted and caked off of the thing. So I'm pretty sure it's toast. I don't really completely understand how these things work. I know that there's the brushes down the bottom. The brushes look okay, but that stuff on the side, that looks like it's yeah, not great. I think for now we don't get to start it again until I can get myself a new starter. Okay, so it's a few days later. That was on Tuesday. Today it's now Friday at just after 1 in the afternoon. And as you know, the starter motor was fried, but Matt actually from Canberra, which is only a couple of hours away, actually had a spare starter motor that he managed to get into the mail to me straight away, and it's here, which is fantastic. Matt's actually got a YouTube channel of his own, Purpose Built, where he's building an old 911 as well, and he's got an old combi wagon as well. So check that out. Check out his stuff. Thank you very much, Matt, for getting this to me so quickly, because now we can put this in and hopefully start the car again. So let's get this in the car. All right, I am absolutely crapping my pants at the moment because I know now that it actually starts. Last time it was just a complete shock. Now I'm expecting it to start, and I've got to run it for 20 minutes at 2,000 RPM. So I really hope that it all works properly. So we're going to go through. I've got to start it, and I'm on talking to Adam at the moment in New Zealand at Link. So he's going to be playing with the ECU from his end and trying to manage everything to get it all sit and run as nicely as we can. So let's go. But it's running. Nope. I'll get my thermometer out and check the individual headers and see if we've got like even temperature. while we were going there, Adam changed the idle so that it should try and sit at about the 2000 RPM so that I didn't have to keep my foot on it. But then he started playing with the mixtures, just trying to get it right. For some reason, my lambda sensors aren't working, so I'm going to have to have a look at them. So we're trying to sort of play with the mixtures by ear, and he leaned it up a bit and then it died. So obviously that wasn't exactly it, but it wasn't running smoothly, as you can see, which may mean that the bottom bank of coils aren't working. So that's something I'm gonna have to test, but this will run on one lot of coils. That should be fine. So I've plugged the coil pack back in. Let's try again. We've got to run this for 20 minutes. That sounded better. Okay, so as you can see, we've been having issues with it running smoothly. I did go through and check all the exhaust temperature sensors with my little thermometer. They all seem to be heating up. There doesn't seem to be one that's particularly low or anything like that. It's sort of, it's a bit of a mystery, but it could actually be the ITBs could be slightly unbalanced. So I'm going to go through now. I've got my little vacuum gauge. You basically just stick this on top of each of the ITBs, and the ball will come up to a certain level to tell you how, basically just sort of how much vacuum it's pulling. And as long as they're all even, that's the thing we're after. It doesn't really matter where it is on the gauge, just as long as they're all even. So we're going to try again, see if we can get this thing to run nicely. Yeah, there's signs of life. Okay, well now it doesn't want to start. We're thinking it's actually probably the plugs are fouled. Yeah, it's not really firing properly, and we're playing around with fueling. I worked out actually that there was an issue with, a lot of you were commenting last week that while I'm trying to crank it, it wasn't starting. Looks like that's actually because when I crank it, the power going to the relay for the fuel pump was connected to one of those circuits that turns off during cranking. So the fuel pump was turning off while cranking and then on again as soon as you release the key. Either way, I sorted out the relay for the fuel pump, so now the fuel pump is running when I'm cranking, but basically, yeah, the plugs are fouled, it's not going to work. I'm thinking, after we've been talking backwards and forwards, I think the rough running is mostly due to the ITBs being out of balance. If they're out just a little bit, it can really mess with everything, so I'm thinking that's probably what it is. So that gives me a few things to do next week. We've got it running. It's running, it does work. It doesn't work well at the moment, but it works. So next week we'll get it going properly. All right, so if you are enjoying this and if you've enjoyed this crazy build all the way up till now, I'm glad you have, and yeah, please subscribe for more of my crazy adventures, and join us on Patreon if you want to watch these videos a day early and help us out. All right, guys, make sure you get check your Porsche parts at PorschePartsByJeff.com. Compare prices there first. See you guys.